My wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "The master bedroom is ours now. You'll be more comfortable downstairs." She meant her and him, in my house, that I paid for. And she said it like she was doing me a favor. But here's the thing, Amanda never figured out. I had been planning for this moment for 6 months, and all it took was one button.
My name is Jake. I'm 47 years old. I worked in commercial real estate for 22 years. I'm not a flashy guy. I don't drive a Ferrari. I don't wear designer suits. I drive a Ford F-150, I drink black coffee, and I show up. That's who I am. I met Amanda 16 years ago at a work conference in Chicago. She was sharp, funny, and she had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. I fell hard. We got married 2 years later. I bought us a house, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in a quiet suburb outside of Columbus, Ohio. 3-car garage. A big backyard. A finished basement I turned into a home office. I paid for it in full. Not a mortgage. Cash. Because that's the kind of man I am. I save. I plan. I build. Amanda worked in marketing. She made decent money, nothing close to what I made, but she was independent, and I respected that. For the first 8 years, things were good. Not perfect. But good. Then slowly, things started to change. It started small. She stopped asking about my day. She started going out more. Girls' nights that stretched past midnight. Weekend trips with coworkers. She started criticizing everything I did. The way I dressed. The way I talked. The way I breathed, I think. I tried to talk to her about it. Twice. 3 times. She told me I was being insecure. She told me I needed therapy. She told me I was emotionally unavailable. And because I loved her, I believed her. I actually started seeing a therapist. Spent 6 months working on myself, convinced that I was the problem. But then one Tuesday afternoon, I came home early from a site visit. And there was a silver BMW in my driveway. I didn't recognize it. I walked inside. And I heard laughing coming from the kitchen. My kitchen. His name was Chris. He was 38. Tall. That kind of guy who wears V-neck shirts to show off his gym results. Amanda worked with him, or so she said. She introduced him to me in my own kitchen like he was a house guest. "Jake, this is Chris. We were just going over some work stuff." Chris shook my hand and smiled. I smiled back. I didn't say much. I went upstairs, changed my clothes, and sat on the edge of the bed. And I just knew. You ever get that feeling in your gut that cuts right through every excuse? I knew. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I needed to be sure. And because I needed to think. So I called my old friend Danny. Danny and I go way back, college roommates. He became a private investigator after his time in the military. He's the kind of guy who can find out anything about anybody. I told him what I saw. He said, "Give me 2 weeks." He needed 3 days. What he brought back to me changed everything. Photos. Timestamps. A paper trail. Amanda and Chris had been seeing each other for 14 months. 14 months. He had been inside my house more than a dozen times while I was at work. They had taken 3 trips together: Las Vegas, Miami, and Cancun. I paid for 2 of those trips with a joint credit card I didn't monitor closely enough. She had charged hotels, restaurants, and even a piece of jewelry, to our card, for him. I sat in Danny's car in a parking lot looking at those photos. And I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just got very, very calm. That's when I knew what I had to do. Here's where most men make the mistake. They confront. They blow up. They threaten. And then they lose, because the other person has time to prepare. I didn't do that. Instead, I went home that night and acted completely normal. I made dinner. I asked Amanda about her day. I watched TV next to her on the couch. And the whole time, I was building my plan. The next morning, I called my attorney. Her name is Linda. She's been my lawyer for 15 years, handled all my real estate deals, sharp as they come. When I explained the situation, she told me to come in immediately. We talked for 3 hours. And by the end of that meeting, I had a road map. See, here's something Amanda never bothered to learn. That house was not marital property. I bought it 18 months before we got married. It was in my name alone. I had never added her to the deed. Never refinanced. Never put her name on a single document related to that property. Under Ohio law, that house was my separate property. She had no ownership claim. None. Linda smiled when she confirmed it. Jake, she said, that woman has been living in your house rent-free for 14 years. And she was about to find that out. But I needed more time to get everything in order. So I kept playing the role of the clueless husband. For 2 more months. 2 months of dinners and weekend errands and acting like everything was fine. But during those 2 months, I was quietly moving pieces on the chessboard. I separated all our finances. Opened new accounts she didn't know about. Redirected my direct deposit. Cancelled the joint credit card and replaced it with one in my name only. I documented every charge she had made, the hotel stays, the flights, the jewelry. All of it. Linda filed the paperwork and held it, ready to go. Danny stayed on the case and kept building the file. And I waited. It was a Saturday morning in March. I came downstairs and Amanda was sitting at the kitchen table with a coffee mug and her laptop. She didn't look up when I walked in. She just said, "We need to talk." I poured myself a cup of coffee. Sat down. Looked at her. "Okay," I said. "Talk." She put her laptop aside. She looked at me with this expression, not guilt, not sadness. More like inconvenience. She said, "I'm not happy, Jake. I haven't been happy for a long time. And I think it's better if we just stop pretending." I said, "Okay." She blinked. That wasn't the reaction she expected. She kept going. "I think you should stay in the basement. I need space, and it makes more sense. The basement is actually really nice. You set it up yourself, you'd be comfortable down there." I said, "Who's moving into the master bedroom?" Silence. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I said, "Chris?" The color drained from her face. And then she did something that told me everything about who she had become. She lifted her chin and said, "His lease ended and he needs a place. It's temporary. And honestly, Jake, given the state of our marriage, you don't really have a right to an opinion about this." She wanted to move her boyfriend into my house. Into my bedroom. And send me to the basement. In my own home. I looked at her for a long moment. I said, "You're right. I don't think this is working." She nodded, visibly relieved. She thought I was folding. I said, "Let me make a call." I went to my home office in the basement. I called Linda. "We're ready," I said. "I'll file Monday morning," she said. Then I called Danny. "Send me everything," I said. Then I sat down at my desk. And I opened my laptop. "See, I told you I work in commercial real estate. I know property. I know contracts. And I know smart home systems. 3 months earlier, when all of this started, I had quietly upgraded the entire house security system. New cameras. New locks. Everything tied to an app on my phone. Every door in that house, every single one, was connected to a smart lock system. All registered to one account. Mine. I also had a feature on the system I hadn't told Amanda about. Guest access. I could grant it. And I could revoke it. Instantly. From anywhere. With one tap. I went back upstairs. Amanda was on the phone. Probably with Chris, telling him to pack his bags. I said, "Amanda, I'd like you to have your things moved out by the end of the month." She laughed. She actually laughed. "Jake, I'm not going anywhere. You can't make me leave. I've lived here for 14 years. I nodded. I know, I said. That's why I'm giving you a full 30 days. I think that's more than fair. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. This is my home too, she said. It's not, I said. And I put a copy of the deed on the kitchen counter. Her name wasn't on it. Had never been on it. The next 2 weeks were chaos. She called her sister. Her sister called me screaming. She called a lawyer, a family attorney who quickly told her that in Ohio, separate property acquired before marriage, with no commingling and no deed transfer, generally stays separate property. She cried. She raged. She told me I was destroying her life. I stayed calm. I stayed in the basement, but not because she asked me to. Because it was my office, and I had work to do. Then one evening, I heard a car pull into my driveway. A silver BMW. I looked at the camera feed on my phone. Chris was pulling his bags out of the trunk. Amanda met him at the door, laughing, relieved, like it was all going to work out. He walked through the front door. Into my house. I gave it exactly 4 minutes. Then I picked up my phone. I opened the app. I tapped. Lock all. Every lock in the house engaged simultaneously. The front door. The back door. The garage entry. The door from the mudroom. All of them. Locked. I had also disabled the ability to unlock them manually from inside without the app code. I heard Amanda's voice from upstairs start to rise. What is happening? I heard her trying the back door. I heard Chris's voice, confused. I walked calmly upstairs with my phone in my hand. Amanda spun around when she saw me. What did you do? What is going on with the doors? I said. I own this house. My locks. My app. My rules. She stared at me. I looked at Chris. I said, I don't know you, and I don't have anything against you personally. But you are currently in my private residence without my permission. I'd like you to leave. He looked at Amanda. She looked at me. You can't do this, she whispered. I unlocked the front door. I said, there you go. Chris left. He grabbed his bags and he left without a word. Smart man. Amanda stood in the foyer shaking. And then she said something that I will never forget. She said, you'll regret this. I will take everything you have. I almost smiled. Linda, I said, would like to disagree with you on that. The next morning, she was served with divorce papers. But there was more. Remember those credit card charges? The hotels, the flights, the jewelry? Linda had compiled all of it into a formal financial misconduct filing. Amanda had used joint funds, money from an account we shared for household expenses, to finance her affair. In Ohio, that can be considered marital waste. Dissipation of assets. The court could factor that into the division of our marital assets, meaning Amanda's share of what we had built together could be reduced by the amount she had wasted. We had a joint investment account. Retirement accounts. A vacation property in Michigan we bought together. That Michigan property, that one was actually marital property. Both our names on the deed. But Amanda had no idea what it was currently worth. She hadn't paid attention to property values in years. I had. It had appreciated by $340,000 since we bought it. Linda negotiated a settlement where I kept the Michigan property. Amanda got the joint investment account, which was worth less. She thought she was winning because she got the investments. She didn't realize the cabin was worth more. There was one more thing. The whole time this was going on, Amanda had been telling people, friends, family, her sister, that I was the one who ruined the marriage. That I was cold, distant, checked out. That I had basically abandoned her emotionally. I let her tell that story. Because Danny had kept building the file. And the file included something special. A voicemail. Amanda had accidentally left me a voicemail, she must have dialed wrong, where she was talking to Chris. Laughing about how she had married me for the stability. Talking about how she'd been planning to eventually end it. For years. Talking about how she had already started moving money. That last part got Linda very interested. Because when we pulled the account statements, we found it. Over the course of 11 months, Amanda had been quietly transferring small amounts, $200 here, $500 there, from our household account into a personal account I didn't know existed. It added up to just over $21,000. That is not a small thing. That is financial fraud within a marriage. We added it to the filing. The day the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in Linda's office. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Gray sky outside. Bad coffee in a styrofoam cup. And I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Peace. Amanda ended up with the investment account, which had taken a hit in a market correction and was now worth less than when negotiations began. She had no claim on the house. No claim on the Michigan cabin. She owed a portion of the $21,000 back. And her attorney's fees had nearly wiped out what she had saved in that secret account. Chris, by the way, had already moved on. Turns out the man wasn't interested in a broke woman with no house and a fraud allegation on her record. Funny how that works. Amanda called me once after everything was finalized. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered. She said, "I hope you're proud of yourself." I said, "I'm not proud. I'm just done." She said, "I gave you 16 years. I said, "And I gave you a beautiful home, a stable life, and a husband who showed up every single day. I'd say we're even." I hung up. I'm living in that house right now. The colonial with the big backyard and the 3-car garage. I repainted the master bedroom. Got new furniture. The basement is still my office, but now I go down there because I want to. Because it's where I built my plan. Where I stayed calm when everything inside me wanted to fall apart. Danny came over last month for a beer. We sat on the back porch and he said, "You handled that better than anyone I've ever seen." I said, "I just waited." He nodded. "That's the hardest part," he said. He's right. The waiting is the hardest part. But here's what I know now that I didn't know before. When someone tries to take everything from you, your home, your dignity, your sense of who you are, the worst thing you can do is react immediately. Because a reaction gives them time to prepare. But a plan? A plan gives you everything. Amanda wanted me in the basement. She wanted me small. She wanted me out of the way while she built a new life inside the one I created. But she forgot one thing. The basement was my office. And from my office, I ran everything. The locks. The lawyers. The accounts. The plan. She thought she was putting me away. She was actually giving me time to work. If you're out there right now and someone in your life is trying to make you feel small, don't react. Document. Plan. And when the moment is right, press the button. Because the most powerful thing you can do when someone underestimates you is let them. If this story hit different, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories about people who stayed calm and came out on top. Drop a comment below. Would you have handled it the same way? Or would you have lost it the moment you saw that silver BMW in the driveway? I'll see you in the next one.